Okay guys, so Black Clover is back. With chapter 342, we're diving more into Yami's real backstory told to us by his little sister Ichika, where we end up finding out that apparently Yami pulled an Itachi on their entire clan. Or at least that's what she's saying. Obviously, we as the readers, and even Asta at the end of the chapter, after hearing the entire story, still don't believe that he's actually capable of doing that. Because I mean, it is Yami. He may have a rough and mean personality, but at the end of the day, he is a genuinely good person, and we've seen that throughout the entirety of Black Clover. Anyway, the chapter opens up and we end up finding out that apparently the Yami clan isn't actually a clan of fishermen, but apparently they're a clan of assassins called Kijin. And after doing a little bit of research, I found out that Kijin is actually a term used to refer to Oni who are so strong and fierce that they're referred to as devils or gods. And referring to them as demons definitely fits when it comes to Yami and Ichika's dad, because the first thing we end up finding out about him in this chapter is that he is very rough, drunk, and abusive to his kids. Because one of the first things we end up seeing him do is he's treating Yami in a very abusive way, and then when Ichika goes to help Yami after being knocked down, he tries to attack Ichika for looking just like her mom, who apparently died giving birth to Ichika. And the second the spoilers for this week's chapter came out, everyone immediately started comparing Ichika to Noelle and saying that the reason why Yami took Noelle in is because of their similar backstories. Which I mean, yeah, that actually might be the case. I mean, we see in this chapter that Yami is actually very protective of Ichika, and we've seen throughout the entirety of Black Clover that Yami's been very protective and more gentle towards Noelle than he has towards anyone else in the Black Bulls. So it honestly wouldn't surprise me if Yami actually does see a lot of his sister in Noelle, and that's the reason why he actually took a liking to her. Now, we end up finding out that the Yami clan is actually in charge of protecting a certain part of the Land of the Sun that is actually owned by Ryu's family, who, speaking of which, we actually do get to see in this chapter in a flashback, and he actually has both eyes during it, which we'll get to later on. Anyway, we end up getting a bird's eye view of the entire island, and we end up finding out that apparently the Black Sea that we saw when Asta first washed up here is only on one side of the island. The rest of it is covered in normal water. And we end up finding out that apparently this is actually the side that Ryu's family owns, and according to legend, a five-headed dragon's Yorioku actually sleeped into the water, turning it black, and connected it to Hell or the Underworld. Which actually ends up explaining why later on in the chapter when we see Yami fishing, the fish that he ends up pulling out actually has horns. Now, according to the legend, the five-headed dragon was running rampant throughout this part of the land, and then a maiden actually managed to tame the dragon, and then somehow after taming it, the five-headed dragon's Yorioku ended up seeping into the water, changing it completely. Now, I'm going to guess that basically this five-headed dragon, the water, and the legend behind all of this has something to do with how Ryu ended up getting his all-seeing eye, his clairvoyance. But I'm not exactly sure how that will end up connecting just yet. But we do end up finding out in this chapter, according to Yami's dad, that Ryu does apparently have a lot of Yorioku. In fact, he almost has as much as Yami does, which is interesting to find out because we know in the current day he has none, but he has his clairvoyant eye. So I am guessing that some kind of deal was made, maybe with the dragon, maybe the dragon actually is real, and he made a deal with the dragon to give up his Yorioku in exchange for the all-seeing eye ability. And I think the main reason why he ended up doing this is actually going to tie into the massacre of the entire Yami clan. Because what we end up finding out earlier in the chapter, or we're hinting at earlier in the chapter, is that apparently the clan is kind of forming a coup, or staging a coup against the Ryu family to take control over this part of the Land of the Sun. And I'm guessing that the reason why we end up finding out at the end of the chapter, or seeing at the end of the chapter, that Yami apparently did actually massacre the entirety of the clan besides himself and Ichika, is because he was trying to stop them. Or at least that's what I assume ended up happening, because we do see that Ryu and Ichika are there at the end of the chapter after Yami finishes taking out the entirety of the clan. And it's a complete 180 turn the way Yami's acting in that part of the chapter to how he's acting in the rest of the chapter, where he's a very calm, chill, laid-back person that everyone seems to enjoy being around. So I'm guessing that Yami figured out what was going on, and because him and Ryu are close friends, he decided to take out his clan in order to stop them from basically forming that coup. Because it is very clear during his training session with his dad that besides Ichika, Yami doesn't seem to care much about his clan, but he does seem to have a very close relationship with, like I said, Ichika and Ryu. And as we know, throughout the entirety of the series, Yami gets the most serious and most aggressive when people that he cares about are being threatened. So yeah, like I said, the Yami clan was probably trying to form a coup against the Ryu family to take control over the Land of the Sun, or at least their province of the Land of the Sun. And in fact, I think that the reason why Ryu was actually there at the end of the flashback is because they were probably trying to assassinate him at that point because they are a clan of assassins. And when Yami found out about it, he decided to get serious and actually defend his friend against them, which involved killing his entire clan. Now, assuming that that's actually how it all went down, it's actually very justifiable that Yami would end up taking out his clan because they were staging a coup against the people they were trying to protect, and he was just doing his job of protecting his friend and the next head of their entire province. So, if that's actually what happened, It doesn't make sense to me why Ichika would be so angry with him for doing that. Because for one thing, we already saw that at least Yami's dad had no love for Ichika just because of the fact that she was considered to be weak. And I mean, assuming that the rest of the clan felt the same way about her that Yami's dad did, then she shouldn't have any love for them at all. On top of that, Yami was just doing his job of protecting his best friend slash the heir to the Providence, so she shouldn't be mad at him for that. The only thing I can think of as the reason why she would blame him for killing their entire clan off is that one, she was a naive girl, so she, even though was very abused by her father, she still had some kind of love for him. And two, she probably wasn't aware of the whole assassination attempt or the coup, and Ryu probably never told her. Anyway, that's where the flashback ends. Then we go back to the present day, and we see Asta pretty much denying everything that Ichika told him, saying that even though she's saying all this, he knows Yami from all the years he's trained with him or worked with him in the Black Bulls, and he knows that he's a good person deep down, and he can't believe that he'd actually just heartlessly massacre his entire family for no good reason. And this is pretty much Asta speaking for the entirety of the fandom over the last like 2 or so weeks. But Ichika is holding strong that Yami did heartlessly kill their entire clan. The two of them continue to butt heads, and then Ichika decides at the end of the chapter if he won't listen to her, then she'll just basically beat the crap out of him. And then this is when we see her pull out her scroll, activate her Yojutsu, which is called Dark Yojutsu, Dark Cloaked Black Musha, which is basically her getting her own samurai dark armor. And we see that she's basically telling Asta that the two of them are going to continue their training, and at this point she's out for blood. But anyway guys, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought about my reasoning for why Yami took out his entire clan is. Like I said, based on what we end up finding out in this chapter from his dad, that makes the most logical sense as to why they would do it. But we'll have to wait until we actually get to hear it from Yami himself as to why he took out the entirety of the Yami clan. Anyway, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Peace.